Welcome to the Orthodox View, where we discuss latest religious news from an Orthodox Christian perspective. And here today is Maria Davidova. Chairman of the Moscow Patriarchate's Department for External Church Relations, Metropolitan Hilarion of Volokholamsk, has presented a unique audio project called Reading the Bible Together. The new project differs from other existing audio versions of the Bible by offering a roll reading of the text that is apportioned accordingly among the biblical authors and characters. In addition, the reading proceeds with musical accompaniment at the background, which helps enhance the impression of the text emotionally. Some of the musical pieces were specifically composed for this project. Such stars of Russian theater and cinema as Evgeny Mironov, Igor Gordin, Sergei Makhovikov, Sergei Kolesnikov, and many others have taken part in the reading process. Metropolitan Hilarion said that he personally took part in checking up the accents and working with cast and sound engineers on issues concerning the manner of reading. As Hierarch noted, the title of the project, Reading the Bible Together, is not accidental. I quote, "Joint reading, which can be carried out within the framework of one family, church community, the Bible study circles, greatly facilitates the understanding of the sacred text." The audio Bible has been released as a mobile application which can be downloaded for free from the App Store and Google Play by typing "Reading the Bible Together" into the search engine in Russian. Students of the Catholic University of America in the United States demanded to remove the image of the Black Virgin Mary and Jesus from their college campus. The student protest was not caused by the dark skin color of those depicted, but rather by the external resemblance of Jesus Christ to George Floyd, who died during the police arrest in May of 2020. His death provoked riots all over the United States. As noted in the petition, portraying Jesus as George Floyd is heretical, blasphemous, idolatry. I quote, "Christ had been depicted as many different races, but he was always presented as the sinless Son of God. There was not a single theologian or icon painter who would paint or describe him as a specific person." The author of the image is an artist, Kelly Latimore. Many people asked her whether the man in the icon was George Floyd or Jesus. Rather ambiguously, she wrote on her Instagram page last week that the answer to that question is yes. At the same time, Ms. Latimore emphasized that, in her opinion, Christ is present in all quote-unquote crucified people in history. As of November 29th, more than 4,000 people have signed the petition. According to the newly published data from the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the number of hate crimes against Christians in Europe rose sharply in 2020. In total, 980 attacks on Christians, desecration of churches, and acts of vandalism against church property were recorded in 2020. In 2019, there were much fewer such cases, 595. Among the crimes in the report are arson attacks on Catholic churches, desecrations and robberies of Eucharistic hosts, assaults on priests, and anti-Catholic graffiti on church property by abortion activists. Most of the crimes motivated by hatred against Christians occurred in Poland. There were 241 cases recorded in 2020. The report links such a large number of attacks to the church opposition of abortion. There are also 172 similar incidents reported in Germany, 159 in France, and 113 in Italy. At the same time, experts agree that the data given does not reflect the true picture of reality, because crime statistics were provided only by 11 out of 57 OSCE member states. Another side of the problem is the attitude of the media to such incidents. The head of the Observatory of Intolerance and Discrimination against Christian, Madeleine Erzenberger, claims that in the media and political spheres, hatred of Christians is hardly noticed as an increasingly obvious social problem. In her opinion, the OSCE report is just the tip of the iceberg. The discrepancy between the statistics presented in the report and the reality is easy to see on the example of Ukraine. For instance, the OSCE report mentions only 14 cases of manifestation of hatred towards Christians in 2020. However, the canonical Ukrainian Orthodox Church reports hundreds of cases of attacks on priests, arson of churches, and acts of vandalism. We hope that in the next year's report, the OSCE will take into account the following data, which is relevant as of November 29th of this year. In 2021, there have been 145 cases of church buildings seized by force, more than 500 attempts of illegal re-registration of church communities on state level, 22 vandalized churches, 50 church robberies, 29 church arsons. The secretary of the Philippine Vietnamese diocese, Hieromonk Cornelius, discovered a breadfruit almost the size of a man in the country yard of the Church of the Nativity of the Mother of God in the Philippine city of Arakan. The priest wrote on his Telegram channel that this was a jackfruit from the family of durians, marrons, and the breadfruit trees. It has a specific smell, but not as unpleasant as that of durians. Such fruit should be cut with a special knife, since it contains such sticky gluten inside that everything used for cutting it will have to be thrown away. The fruit is used to make soups, stewed with vegetables, and is sometimes added to pasta instead of meat. Hieromonk Cornelius maintains his own Telegram channel called Notes of the Philippine Priest in the format of a diary, and often shares stories about exotic Filipino cuisine. For example, he had recently asked his followers what this traditional dish was made of. Possible answers included frogs, lizards, cockroaches, or beetles. The majority chose the frogs option and turned out to be right. More than 5 million people worldwide have died from the coronavirus pandemic. Why does God allow such evil and suffering? This question was addressed to 6,000 Americans by employees of the oldest research center in the field of religion, the Pew Research Center. The survey was conducted in September 2021. The survey results show that the vast majority of Americans are not inclined to blame God for human suffering. They believe that suffering is mainly a consequence of the behavior and actions of the people themselves. Moreover, these actions contradict the plans of God or a higher power. Half of those surveyed believe that God allows suffering because it is part of a larger plan. But 40% of those surveyed believe that the devil is responsible for most of the suffering in the world. Doubts about the existence of God or His kindness were voiced by only 20% of Americans surveyed. The research center quotes the famous American philosopher Alvin Plantinga, who wrote that it is the hardest thing for a Christian philosopher to explain the reason why God allows so much evil in the world. I quote, "I think we don't know. I don't think there is a good answer to that. There are lots of suggestions people have made, theories people have tried out, but I don't think any of them are satisfactory. At the end, this is a puzzle." This question has also been looked at by the Russian Orthodox theologians. Metropolitan Hilarion of Volokholamsk, chairman of the Moscow Patriarchate's Department for External Church Relations, explains in his book Inconvenient Questions About Religion and the Church that source of evil is not in the will of God, but in the will of people themselves. This point of view essentially coincides with the opinion of the majority of the Americans surveyed in the study. I quote, "God has given mankind freedom, but people often use this freedom to their own detriment. The Lord does not force us to do good and avoid evil. He teaches this to us and expects us to obey Him of our own free will. However, it depends on us whether we shall obey Him or not. If God were to force us to do His will, we would not have been free creatures, but would be like puppets in a puppet theater. This is all for today. Thank you for watching and see you next time on The Orthodox View.